was August 1st, 2018. I get a call from one of my investigators. So we had a shooting victim on Sunnybrook Drive, and it didn't look good.
When Lieutenant Chris Wilson arrived at the scene, he found Mary Catherine Higdon frantic as first responders were trying to save her boyfriend, Stephen Freeman's life.
Just tell me he's alive.
Stephen died. Mary Catherine told police that her gun went off accidentally as she was handing it to Stephen.
There was never a bullet in the chamber. It was never my intention to ever injure him or kill him.
Mary Catherine was taken in for questioning. Police didn't believe her, and after confronting her, they say she confessed.
She said, I did it out of anger. Yeah, just like that.
Thinking they had the confession on tape, Mary Catherine was arrested. But there was a big problem with the recording. There's no sound there.
There's sound, but it's just a noise, constant noise all the way through it.
But prosecutor Kate Leonard says they had plenty of other evidence. The state contended the couple's relationship was unraveling, and Mary Catherine shot Stephen in anger after he hadn't come home for dinner and ignored her calls and text messages.
Your Honor, the defense called Mary Catherine Higdon.
At trial, Mary Catherine claimed she was the victim of an abusive boyfriend, and she says Stephen had raped her on 2 occasions, and that's why she was afraid of him the night she shot him.
She had never told anyone that before, and he can't defend himself.
What would a jury believe?
48 Hours correspondent David Begnaud joins us with details. Good morning, David.
Good morning to you.
All right, so one of the things that obviously makes investigators suspicious at times is when a story changes over and over again. This story kept changing.
Yeah, look, I mean, the bottom line is Mary Catherine initially calls police, says that there was a gun that went off. She didn't realize there was a bullet in the chamber, but the cops get to the house and there's food all over the floor and they think there's been an argument. And there's Stephen Freeman on the mattress in the living room. Then she gets to the cop shop and she tells a slightly different story. Then the police say she confesses. But then you have this video recording that it almost sounded like when you listen to it, like somebody flipped a switch or something. So one of the questions I had was, you know, forgive me officers for suggesting this, but like, did somebody do this on purpose? They insist they didn't. But the prosecution said even without this ball that the cops dropped, we believe we have enough evidence to move forward, and so they did.
Yeah, all right. Plenty of cases where people don't confess. In fact, oftentimes they won't confess. Is it a situation where the police officers could have gone ahead and testified what she told them? Was that not enough?
Look, so that's exactly what they did. But the bottom line is, and you'll hear it tonight, that issue with the recording of the tape, that was something of a deal breaker for at least 2 of the most vocal jurors in the room who were pretty influential in getting the other jurors to come over to their side.
Yeah, so it sounds like the story really is kind of, you know, was it justifiable homicide or did she get away with murder? And that, of course, is what we look at with suspicion. For people who are not familiar with this series that you all are doing, what brought you to do this version of 48 Hours?
So look, it's a limited run that's happening in prime time. We usually have the 48 Hours on the Saturday, but CBS said 48 Hours does really well. The audience seems to really like it. So let's put it in prime time during the week. So we're doing it.
Yeah,
Wednesday nights.
A lot more details in there that we discussed this morning. But what makes you suspicious that she could have gotten away with something?
Look, at the end of the day, when her stories kept changing, and I had a chance to sit down with her. We weren't sure whether she would agree to do it, and at the very last minute, she said yes. But I was, you know, you're suspicious when you hear the 911 call, but then you hear the first thing she told them, right? How does a bullet accidentally get in the chamber, right? Mary Catherine worked at a store where she sold guns. Mary Catherine had a lot of experience using guns. So the idea that Mary Catherine would just be holding a gun and it would accidentally go off, on the surface, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah, all right. Well, the jury believed it there. Of course, there is a difference between, you know, not guilty versus being told that you're innocent. We oftentimes watch you for telling stories, but right now I want to turn the tables and know your story. A lot of kids are online right now. I heard a little boy say the other day who has a stuttering problem. He said, you know, I'm glad I'm not in class right now because kids would make fun of me. You were diagnosed with Tourette's at the age of 6, but I love when you say, my Achilles heel also is the fuel that has driven me.
Oh, listen, let me tell you something. What you just said about that little boy really resonates with me because my childhood was the most traumatic part of my life. I often say whatever comes later down the road won't eclipse the trauma that I felt as a child. For me, the classroom was the scariest part because kids can be so cruel, not only because they're kids, but because they don't know what they don't know. They don't know what Tourette's is. I don't even know if we've developed a sense of empathy or compassion at that age. I was diagnosed at the age of 6. They treated me with blood pressure medication while they tried to figure out what to do. Moved me around from 3 to 5 schools. My dad homeschooled me in 5th grade. It was horrific. It was horrible. And it led me to build a wall up. Like everything was fine. Like, how you doing? Oh, I'm great. My day was great. But it was anything but. Yeah. However, the resilience that I learned, Deborah, and walked away with from that, and the relationships that I built, it was, I hope everyone has a teacher like I had, Josette Surratt, who confronted me one day at 18 years old and said, "What are you running from?" And she realized that I had built this wall around me for so long that it would take a while to break down. But that wall was me protecting myself. Because when you walk around with no friends and your adults are your only friends, it's hard to be vulnerable. And so that was a lesson that I had to learn. It was a painful lesson, and I often say this, I'll leave you with this. The reason I try and live my life so authentically today is because I lied for so many years about who I was. Not only did I have Tourette's, but I was gay. And when you pair those together as a child, I wouldn't wish it on any child. And if I wrote a letter to my younger self, it would say, "Trust me, it gets better."
All right, and you are such a role model for so many kids today and adults as well. So David, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Thank you so much for sharing that part of yourself.
Thank you, Deborah. Pleasure.
All right. 48 Hour Suspicion. The case against Mary Catherine Higdon airs tonight at 9 on KHOU 11.